What is going on, everybody? We are back once again with another edition of Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. It is Saturday, January the 11th, fresh off an episode of SmackDown. We're going to break it down today. I'm stoked about it. I've got two absolute legends hanging out with me this afternoon, evening, morning, depends on where you are. But either way, let me introduce them to you really quickly. First and foremost, I'm going to send this one out to New York, to the Duchess, the GOAT herself. Megan, what is going on? Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday. Hey everybody. Just want to quickly send my thoughts and prayers to those that are affected by the wildfires in California. It's just been on TV everywhere, and although I can't be there to physically help, I am sending my prayers and high wishes and hoping that everyone has found some type of safe haven and a place to feel safe and to overall be safe. But besides that, I'm just good. I'm good. I'm grateful, healthy, and just wishing the same for everybody else here.
Absolutely. And I appreciate that so much, Megan. I'm far enough south. Thankfully, we are completely safe, but so many friends affected by the wildfires. It's been absolutely devastating, but we sincerely appreciate that from the West Coast to the East Coast, no doubt about it. And let's send this across the pond, though, way far away. This is like a full plane flight. This is 2 flights for some people. David Sheldon, Mr. Reviewer himself. Let's break down some SmackDown. How are you on this Saturday, David?
Hello, everybody. I'm not in the camera. I'm now in the camera. Hello, everybody. Very excited to be here. Before we begin talking about SmackDown, I want to echo Megan's sentiments as to the wildfires in California. Obviously, being across the pond in the UK, we're getting some of the coverage over, so we're hearing some of it, but nothing like I'm sure being over in the States. So I can't imagine what people are going through over there, and hope everyone is safe and healthy. And yeah, it's a horrible situation at the moment, obviously still unfolding over there, but sending my best wishes. And let's get chatting to more later news on the episode of Friday Night SmackDown.
No doubt about it. No question, David, and appreciate that always. I will say it was probably my fault on the camera thing because I actually used the wrong angle. I used the full screen angle, so you were blocked by you were centered had I used the correct camera angle. And I did the same thing to Megan and realized it after the fact. So I did want to come clean to you both. That's actually on me from a production standpoint. But let's get into SmackDown last night. And let's talk about Roman Reigns with the big announcement. He's in the Royal Rumble. If anybody can just show up and say they're in the Royal Rumble, I think it's Roman Reigns. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt on this one. Although I've always found it funny that some people got to wrestle to qualify, and then others just show up, grab a microphone, and say, guess what I'm going to do? Be in the Royal Rumble, and they're just in. And I don't know how the decision is made on that, but I don't need consistency. It's just a minor complaint there, especially when it's the head of the table and a former Royal Rumble winner himself. Declaring for the Royal Rumble makes a heck of a lot of sense. I'm totally cool with that in every way. Megan, though, I want to ask you, does this smell of a Rock Rumble entry, or am I wrong on
that? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I do want to clarify that Roman didn't give us the due honor of telling us he was going to be in the Royal Rumble. Right. He sent his wise man to do it for him, which, not a lot of people can do that, I don't know if The Rock is going to be in the Royal Rumble, but he did remind us that he's always 20 steps ahead of everyone. So we can only suspect that he's going to do something. But, I'm sure Roman thinks he's going to get into the match and throw all 29 men over the top rope and ultimately win and take the title back from Cody. But he has a lot of people to go up against. And among those 29 other men will be CM Punk, will be John Cena. And, and they want the title shot as well. And I'm sure Seth will be in the match as well. I'm sure Drew will be in the match as well. So Good luck, Roman. That's all I can say.
100%. And I do think it's interesting to your point about the amount of enticing matchups you can see, whether it's the new bloodline, whether it's, former rivals potentially. I mean, I mentioned maybe The Rock. You never know, right? Cena, Roman, all kinds of different stare downs and moments you can have. There's one thing, though, I will hang my hat on as a guarantee. He will have the longest walk to the ring of any Royal Rumble entrant by miles. They will play that song 2 times before he steps between the ropes, and there's no doubt about it. I wouldn't be shocked if they were going by the clock. If the 10-second countdown clock for the next guy was on as he got to the ring apron.
Yeah, I can see it.
That will be the biggest gap between entrants. But David, I'm going to toss the same question to you. We have the wise man, as Megan mentioned, making the announcement for Roman. He is in the Rumble. Do you see the potential of The Rock? Which matchup are you looking most forward to as far as Roman in the Rumble? And do you have an early prediction? And I'll go back to Megan actually after this too, because this is a good question. I think we should all three give one for what entry number Roman gets.
Oh, that's interesting. That's very interesting. My immediate thought for a laugh was 1, but there's no way that that's happening because Roman's not wrestling for an hour. He's just not anymore. Okay,
not this time.
Not this time. My 1 and 2 for the Rumble is still Drew McIntyre and Joe Hendry. That will be my first 2 in the Rumble. So, right, there's lots to unpack here. First of all, great news that Roman's in the Rumble. I think a lot of us thought knew Roman was going to be in the Rumble, but even so, nice to have the sort of confirmation that he's there. Liked the segment, liked Heyman's respect towards Cody. Like that sort of announcement. Roman's in the Rumble. So far, they've announced 2 names. They've got Cena and Roman. 2 great names to put in the Rumble. 2 big stars that will sell the pay-per-view. I always like to have minimal people announced for the Rumble, as less as possible. I don't need to know that Kofi Kingston's going to be in the Rumble. Like, I just don't. But it's nice to know that big names in. I would announce Punk, Cena, Roman, those guys. Basically, the guys that are going to sell your tickets. And then after that, you make it more of a, because more of a surprise, because ultimately, if you look at All In with the Casino Gauntlet last year, we basically didn't know anyone that was going to be in it. So every single person that comes out, you're just salivating at who the next guy out is, even if it's Roderick Strong. Sorry, Roderick, I love you. But, Roddy comes out and you go, hey, it's Roddy, rather than, oh, that's Roddy. Ticked off a list, So I would keep it minimal, but I think the Roman is a great choice to announce. We'll sell tickets. I would rather eat broken glass at the moment than watch Rock in the Rumble, because I feel like I struggle to get behind him now after he essentially has spent the week trying to torch WWE's creative plans for the last year with a flamethrower, that he used at WrestleMania 32. He didn't throw it away. He still got it. I like Rock, but his comment on NXT about, I'm 10 steps ahead of you all. I can't do this again. It's the boy that cried wolf. Last year, he made a wrong decision. We all called him out on the wrong decision, and he pivoted and he went heel, and it was great. I can't do that a second time unless something majorly brilliant is pulled out of the bag. So not that bothered about seeing Rock in any capacity at the moment. I'm happy for him to go back and do reshoots on Moana 2. I want it to be Cena Gunther. I've been saying Cena Gunther for a year. I think it might be Cena Cody is another potential option. Roman, I could see Roman Cody 3. I could see them doing 3 Manias in a row with that as the main event. I could also see it being Roman and Punk. I could also see it being Roman. My pitch will be Roman, Punk, and Seth. That would be.
I don't even have an issue with. But then how do you get the belt? The belt needs to be there, and then you've got to sort of get the belt off Gunther, which I don't want to do either. So there's a lot of sort of potential things. My prediction is, and I'm going to put it out now, Roman Reigns comes out at number 22. There we are. 22. I might put some money on it. I love that one.
We'll lose that money.
Okay, Megan. 22. Early prediction, Roman Reigns entry number.
Oh. I might have to go higher than David.
Okay.
I'm not going to say 30, but I would probably
30. Oh no, not 30. Okay.
No, I don't think they'll do that. I think 30 will probably be reserved for someone else. But I would say maybe 25. I don't see him being in the match for very long.
I like that.
I mean, we've got to put Giovanni Vinci at 30. So if we work back from there, then
yes,
somebody least expected, right?
We've got Bobby Petito said he'd like to see Roman Reigns be 20 or 21. I think that's not bad either.
I will say,
if I remember correct, and correct me on this though, I'll give mine really quick.
Yeah.
I believe the winningest or tied for the winningest is 27.
Is it still 20? I think 30's taking it over now, but it was 27.
It was 27 for years. And the commentators always like to point that out. I'm going to go with 27, literally only for that reason, because we are just guessing here.
What's interesting about that stat, though, I learned the other day, is that the first person to win the Rumble from 30 was Taker in 2007, which meant that, like, the first person to win it was in 2000, winning from that stop was 2007. Rumble's been going since 88. Yet it's been done so much in the last few years that it's now overtaken any other number because they keep having the winner at 30.
Yeah, it's been often.
You know, when they did it twice in one, or not twice, it wasn't quite twice in one, but Brock did it, and various other people have done it as well. But
I find it really interesting you bring that up, David. And I'm wondering if it's happenstance or if there was intention there to try to restore 30 as an advantage. So that you can present that as the case, because if 30's never won, it's the curse of 30, right? It doesn't feel like an advantage anymore.
Yeah.
And then if you stack the stats to the extent that 30 is clearly an advantage, it's a big deal to come out last in a 60-minute match. If it was intentional, that's really smart.
Yeah. What I'll also say is what we have to do, and this is going to be the third Triple H Rumble that we've seen booked. We now have to look at the way that Triple H structures Royal Rumble matches. So I don't think it's the case anymore that you can go, right, who's the biggest entry we can put at 30? Because he doesn't do that. And it was Sami Zayn last year.
It's true.
You know, was it Sami? It was Sami. It was Sami 2024. And I can't remember who it was in 2023. It was Cody. So fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. Cody the year before.
And wasn't it like Brock the year before that?
Yes, but that was Vince. Cody was only done because they didn't want people to think it was going to be Sami. So then it was actually Sami the year after. So Triple H doesn't book crazy returns. He doesn't book sort of, these massive number 30 entrants that are going to blow your mind. He is sort of a sensible, sometimes to a fault booker. So I could see it being the case that Roman is 30. I could see it being the case that Punk is 30 or Cena is 30. Somebody they've already announced to be in it. But there is a part of me that kind of would be fun if Roman was the first music you heard, and it was that shock of, Roman's going from 1.
That would be pretty wild.
Also, can't have that.
I think it'd be too much for me.
It won't happen. It won't. But remember what they, as long as they don't do what they've done in the past with him, which is what was the Rumble that they basically took him out for half the match, so he could go back and watch an episode of EastEnders and then come back out and do the rest of it. As Rusev took him out, but it would be fun.
Didn't they do that with Orton and Edge one year too? Where Orton it was Orton Edge 1 and 2, and that's way back. But I'm just trying to remember. Yeah.
Well, I do feel that. Like riding back on what you said about Triple H being sensible when it comes down to booking, he does like to pull the rug from under his viewers. And even if it's not someone that we expect, maybe for instance, everyone that we would expect to be in the match is already out before number 30, and then it'll be someone least expected. They have this whole rumor about Ric Flair showing up. It's like,
goodness gracious, please don't.
I think it's more likely Flair will be. We don't go into reports, I know, but from what I have read on the Flair thing, I expect it to be more of a side of cut to camera. Look at all these old Rumble winners that we have. Yes. Here's Flair. Here's Dawn.
We'll say really quickly too, because we got some comments over on Instagram from Lord Virus of Nurgle. He said he's got Roman entering at 16. Good. And then we also had someone comment Roman at 30, Rock surprise 31.
I hate it.
I hate it, but I don't think it's impossible. And then
it's not impossible.
Lord Virus of Nurgle said Cena, I think 25. That's fair too. That's not a bad prediction at all. But honestly, we could discuss the Rumble and who's going to enter when literally the rest of the afternoon. We should totally move on at this point. Otherwise, we'll be stuck here forever. Let me find the proper graphic here. Yep, I've got it. Really a tough day on the production side for me, my friends. Chelsea Green defends the United States Championship against Mi Chin. This was a fun match. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was a cool and legit title defense. Piper Niven's the outfit, I mean, just tickled me. The entire thing. It's really good. In the range from Niven, who is she toes the line of it being comedy because she's paired with Chelsea Green, but she's done an amazing job of, you still know she's legit, right? You still know that she's a bad A, right? She'll run it over without hesitation. And she's towed that line, I think, as well as almost anybody when it comes to a role like this. So I enjoyed her work last night, especially, and Chelsea getting the win. Mi Chin is so good in the ring, though. I don't know what the future is for her. David, I'm going to toss this one to you, though. What were your thoughts on the Chelsea Green title defense, as well as the future of the United States Women's Championship division? And are we counting down the days until it's Piper Niven's turn?
Possibly. I mean, look, I'm going to give an oppositional take to you, Clark, because I wasn't necessarily a fan of this. But I think that I love Chelsea Green and I love Mi Chin. I have no problem with either woman. I've liked the matches. I liked the Saturday Night's Main Event match. Thought the dumpster match was great fun, great character work. This was the weakest of the three that they've had, and I think quite significantly the weakest of the three. Wasn't awful by any means, because I don't think Mi Chin's capable of awful, and Chelsea, again, not capable of awful, but spots got a bit mistimed. There are a few things, that just didn't land. The bit around picture about the cut to the ad felt a bit weirdly structured. The end was a bit obvious with Mi Chin taking out Piper to get rolled up. It just, to me, it was a bit like, it was sort of, yeah, that makes sense, but it didn't land for me in the way that I wanted it to. It didn't feel like a blow-off. It felt like another match between the two, and quite a sloppy one as well, which is, like I said, is a shame, because I have flown the flag for Mi Chin for a long time. I think she's excellent, and she's shown in this feud that she is great. I'm not sure that this one entirely landed, though, I'll be honest. I think the future for the women's US title division, I think we just bring on more challengers now. I think what we need to see with SmackDown at 3 hours, because I don't think SmackDown needs to be 3 hours, but if it's going to be 3 hours, I need people fighting over a chance to wrestle for the US title, like we had with the women's title, which we'll get to later. I need to establish a number of contenders, be they people who come up from NXT to boost it in the arm. It needs to have that sense of loads of people coming after Chelsea straight away. And at the moment, I feel like going straight back into a match with Mi Chin and seemingly nobody else being bothered it's already made it feel a little bit stagnant. But I mean, we're only a couple of weeks in, of course, and Chelsea is great. So for me, I would say that we move over and we let some other women on SmackDown have a crack, and move Mi Chin into something different. I'd move Mi Chin up. I'd move her into the world title scene, to be honest. But the thing is, every time we've done that, problem is, every time we've done that with Mi Chin, she's never felt like a credible challenger at that top level through no fault of her own. It's like when she did the stuff with Nia Jax, nobody bought in a million years she was going to win it. So, it was sort of she's sort of been bobbling between the US title, the mid-card scene, and the main event scene. So I actually think she needs a sort of upper mid-card feud to do with no titles.
I would be all over
something with, Naomi to further Naomi's heel turn, or something with somebody like that. Nia Jax again. I don't want to see Nia Jax again. But, sort of with other people on that level, possibly
Mid-sentence
Naomi.
audible.
Yeah, I'd say Naomi. I'd say put her in with Naomi.
Yeah, Naomi
would suit both characters, both motivations, just for a short-term program. But she's also the tag champ. Oh, we need more women.
I know.
Guys.
I know.
But she needs that. She needs to be established that she can. Whether or not that's a good showing in the Rumble, whatever that is, because she is capable. And I've been flying that flag. Chelsea moves on to somebody else. Mi Chin. Let's get.
I'm with you there.
In that upper mid card level.
Even if the transfer portal isn't closed yet, I wouldn't mind her actually going to Raw. I wouldn't hate that either. just fresh matchups. That's all I'm thinking. That's all I'm thinking is fresh matchups.
For Meet Jin, that's great. For SmackDown, that's like
for SmackDown, it hurts.
Yeah,
no, I would agree.
SmackDown
it would have to be almost like a trade, a 1-for-1, like somebody from Raw.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just need some NXT women up there now. Like, yeah, like it's Raw's women's, like SmackDown's women's division is not terrible. It's got a lot of good, really, really good talents in it. But I'm just like, considering the show is now 3 hours, I don't think there's any division that I feel like you're going to feel it with more than the women. So let's use the women that aren't having those opportunities and let's elevate them up to that level. Because, you know, Lash Legend, Jakara Jackson, all of those people, let's use that, you know, let's bring
that
those.
NXT women's division is coming up in very quickly too.
Yeah, I mean,
that is going to
they've
make
been
the talent pool even larger.
Yeah, they've been.
This is kind of the time to strike if you're on the main roster right now, because that next generation is coming and they're coming quickly.
Yep, coming off New Year's Evil, 2 new champions. Let's give it a refresh. We've got a transfer portal going on. Let's get women from NXT up to SmackDown, and let's make this divisions feel really fresh, particularly those mid-card divisions.
100%. Okay, really quickly, we're going to take a short break here while I attempt to pay some bills. Let's talk about Demand Progress Plus. You're going to want to check this out. If you're watching this show, we already know you're a wrestling fan. It's too late. You're here. This is one of the best tape libraries you will find out there. Progress Wrestling is off the charts. It's where some of your absolute favorite stars cut their teeth. The entire library is on there. Not only that, every chapter, the current product is off the charts. Every chapter just keeps getting better and better. Guess what? It gets even better than that. We're going to give you a discount. Use the code WATCHPROGRESS1. You'll get 50% off your first month on Demand Progress Plus, the home of Progress Defy, and many other promotions. One more time on that code, that is WATCHPROGRESS1, and that's 50% off your first month. We assure you, you'll love it. But speaking of things to love, check this one out as well. Etsy. Head over to the App Store if you're on the iPhone or the Google Play Store. Download the Etsy app or the Etsy app. Head to upcoming streams, and you're going to love this. 9 a.m. Pacific tomorrow morning, Sunday, January the 12th. It's noon Eastern time, 8 o'clock in the UK, and 6 a.m. for my friends in Hawaii. If you want to come on the stream and argue with me, you're more than welcome to join. All you have to do is download the app, you create the profile, you join the stream on time. You don't like what I have to say about Cody Rhodes? Come talk to me about it. But if you do, pack a lunch. It's going to be a long day for you, I assure you, but we'll have a blast tomorrow. That's going to be me. Ant University takes will be there. The ones will be there. We got all kinds of good stuff coming up for you. Check it out. Download that app. You'll love it. And you might even get to yell at me. No cursing, though. That's against the rules. It says it when you click live. All right. Let's keep it rolling here, though, on today's show, not tomorrow's show. Let's talk about the new Bloodline and how many segments. More than one. Just an early, out of the gates note that I have to add. Did Jacob Fatu put on 20 pounds of muscle in 2 weeks? Like, what happened? How come he also moves just as fast and he now looks bigger than he did before? Am I the only one that noticed that? Maybe it was a clothing thing. I don't know. But he looked massive last night and like somehow more intimidating than normal. Got to give him credit where it's due. The LA Knight segment, hysterical. Yeah. And then you make sense of that at the end of the night and everything. I dug it. Megan, I want to get your thoughts on it. The new Bloodline are actually impressing me more post storyline with the old Bloodline than I ever expected, because you thought, or not you, I thought, at least in my eyes, that was their time to shine. I don't know. I think they're doing better than they've ever done right now all of a sudden.
Yeah, I mean, I know last night was just a matter of them getting their vengeance for their tribal chief, who is no longer the tribal chief because he was never really the tribal chief to begin with. But even though Solo wasn't there physically, his presence was still felt. It was through Jacob and through Tamatanga. And it seemed like Cody was working overtime, coming to the aid of Jimmy, who was coming to the aid of Paul Heyman after he announced that Roman was going to be in the Royal Rumble, which I would assume Solo will be in it as well. But I thought that the whole friction between LA Knight and the New Bloodline was going to be over. I thought it was over. But now we know for sure it's not over because they cost him a title shot. They cost him his title opportunity against Shinsuke Nakamura. So I know that eventually we are going to probably get that one-on-one match between LA Knight and Jacob Fatu, which is something I'm looking forward to. Honestly, yep. I want to see Jacob in more singles matches. They have built him up to being the Enforcer 2.0. He's a lot more intimidating than I feel Solo was when he was the Enforcer. And now that we have seen this build up for Jacob, I feel like his next single match should be with LA Knight. I'm sure LA Knight is going to want his payback, for after what happened yesterday. But the Bloodline did have a good night last night. I mean, they beat up Jimmy. Jimmy always getting beat up. I'm tired of Jimmy being a crash test dummy.
Yeah, Jimmy
I'm tired
gets beat
of Jimmy a lot. And now he got Carmelo Hayes in the picture, just being that nagging,
just like thorn in his side.
I don't know how to describe it. Yeah, Carmelo he just wants to like nitpick at everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's Braun Strowman, whether it was Cody, whether it's now Jimmy, he's trying to make a name for himself. I don't fault him for that, but I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen when Solo comes back next week.
He was the NXT champion at one point.
Yeah, it's wild to think that.
Oh, he's so good.
But I'm so with you, Megan, on strike while the iron's hot with Jacob. And I also think one thing that was really interesting that you noted about LA Knight and the Bloodline, I thought that was over too. But I kind of was thinking about it last night when I was watching the show. I'm like, no, but they need people to beat up that aren't necessarily Jimmy, right? Like we both said it. Like, we're tired of seeing Jimmy. I think all three of us can echo that same sentiment. Like,
I'm so tired of it.
It can't be. And like, as weird as this sounds, it's not that I wanted to see LA Knight get beat up by the Bloodline, but Fatu and the New Bloodline need people to beat up. And LA Knight made sense last night. They made sense of that. And I appreciate that. And it, of course, Jimmy got it too, but still, like, I think for continuing momentum for the New Bloodline, they need to target not necessarily logical people all the time either, right? Like any little perceived disrespect they need to act upon. And that, I guess, is the way I would put it, right? Anybody, anybody gives them a wrong look backstage.
I could definitely see that. I mean, I guess that would be the total opposite when it comes down to the original Bloodline, because they really only went after whoever Roman specifically told them to go after. But it feeds into the perception that, Paul Heyman keeps putting out, that they're ravaged and they're, they can't be contained, and they do whatever it is that they want to do, and they're savages and stuff. And so the whole persona of them is to just go around just attacking people. So I feel like it should have been more of that instead of it just seemed a little targeted, and LA was kind of like, I don't know. Honestly,
I mean, he pushed him out of the door though.
He did, but yesterday felt like maybe it's because we got spoiled by Raw on Netflix. But yesterday it felt as though maybe everybody got stuck in some storms, so they kind of just had to fit in whoever was there. It felt it felt like a shell.
You know, the
It
third
didn't really
hour, I think,
feel.
hurt SmackDown. And we kind of, David mentioned that earlier. I think the
Boring.
third hour is a lot. There was dead space,
Yeah.
which you
I mean,
don't normally see on SmackDown. Like
Yeah.
I feel like we're almost numb to it on Raw because it's been 3 hours so
I was
long.
going to say, I haven't watched Raw on Netflix, so much dead space, but because it's because it's Undertaker dead
Raw.
space or Hulk Hogan dead space, you don't notice it as much. They did with Hogan. But like, just on your point quickly before we move on about the Heyman quote, I completely agree. I've never believed Heyman on that. Like,
Never.
when Heyman's been going on about, how they're savages that can't be contained,
Mhm.
it's like they've got the potential for that because Jacob, you just has to look at you and you have a heart attack. But like, all they do is do the same thing that Jimmy, Jay, Sammy, all those guys have ever done, Solo, all those guys have ever done. So when he goes out and tries to put over how dangerous they are, I've never fully bought it, even though I know that they are dangerous.
To your point, David, it's like they need to prove it.
They need to prove
It
it.
still
Yeah.
feels like they need to prove that that's the case. And
Yeah.
there's a great story long term. We'll stick on this really quickly, and then I promise we'll get to the main event. But like no problem. Honestly, this is a great topic because I think there's a great story to be told about the difference. Now we've already seen one iteration of new versus old bloodline, but the difference between the calculated aggression of the original bloodline and the more Tasmanian devil cartoonish, not cartoonish, but like the do not cross our path of the new bloodline. They aren't out here calling shots from behind the scenes, picking opponents by hand. They're just going to be on a warpath, and you don't step on the same sidewalk or you're in the way. Like, I think you can tell a really great story like that. But anyway, Megan, what were you going to say? Last thing, and then we'll go.
No, just real briefly. I do have faith that SmackDown will eventually pick up with 3 hours. I just feel like, as I've said before on here so many times before, all of the ticket sellers, so to speak, is on Raw. Yeah. So, maybe at some point, if you're not going to look at that list of all the wrestlers on Raw and say, okay, we're going to take half of you guys, put you on SmackDown, then, maybe we need a little bit more of a laissez-faire approach when it comes down to the brand. Just make it more open to where people can appear on both brands, because I feel like that's the only thing that's really going to save SmackDown, by seeing more people like Drew, more people like CM Punk,
right?
Seth on SmackDown. Like, we need that.
I said this the other day too. After Raw on Netflix, about like the brand split aspect of this, because it's now different. You have one on cable and you got one on streaming, right? That's the new scoop. I think we're going to get to a spot where they just kind of start playing the best players and it gets vanilla, and we might end up seeing some internet wrestling complaints about, I thought the brand split in the draft and like whatever. But I do think we're going to get to a spot where we just start seeing the best players and the most enticing storylines day in and day out, because it's just, if you want it to be the most marketable, you're going to give us the best stuff. And I just think it's the most logical route at this stage, because it's been so long since the brand split. And you now have another company in AEW on the other side. You're almost looking at 4 rosters if you include NXT for people to memorize with just those 2 companies. Then you add New Japan and everything globally. There's sections of the fan base that are only going to watch so much. And familiarity is an easy way to keep people watching. But I don't necessarily fully agree with it, but we do really have to get to the main event. I'm sorry, David. I know you had one more thing, but let's talk about Bayley and Tiffany Stratton. I, on paper, am so excited about this. Bayley's awesome. I need the edge from Bayley Doe Straps. I need Ding Dong Hello. And I need her to go really test Tiffany Stratton on the microphone in this feud somewhere along the way. That's what I want to see to really solidify Tiffy as this new champ. She did an amazing job with the briefcase, but she did play second fiddle to Nia Jax for a lot of that. And I think Bayley on the microphone can get some of the absolute best out of Stratton, and it's almost like a litmus test. Here's your first defense against a very, very, very established, stacked resume performer in Bayley, who can go on the mic. Let's see if you can go toe-to-toe, and I think Tiffany can. And I think it'll get the best out of both. I actually think it'll be good for Bayley as well because this character has wallowed since the debut of Damage Control. I was furious about the debut of Damage Control. What damage did they control? None. They didn't control the damage that did to Bayley's character. She was at the height of the industry upon that return. Bayley Doe Straps, she carried it on her back during the pandemic. I'm stunned she doesn't have similar sentiments to what Drew McIntyre has shown. A bitterness, because during the toughest time with no crowds, she was absolutely at the top and on fire. And so I'm excited about this one. Megan, I'm going to start with you on this one, though. Bayley, Tiffy. Bayley earned it. I'm excited about it. Are you stoked to see it?
No, I'm not excited about it at all. I was irritated that Bayley won. She doesn't need another title opportunity. I had to look it up. Since Nia had the title, including the actual title change, Bayley had 16 title shots against Nia.
That's fair.
A lot of them were dark matches given, but no, I'm not excited about this. I'm not excited about this at all. I feel like this was an opportunity that somebody else could have had, and they just didn't give it to them for whatever reason. I mean, I'm trying to think of all the other women that's on SmackDown right now outside of the ones that we see almost every week, and in my mind draws a blank. I think of Bianca, I think of Naomi, I think of Chelsea, I think of Michin, I think of Candice. But I'm sure there is more.
Bianca.
And the EST of WWE. I can never forget her. But it's just there is so many other women on the roster on SmackDown, and because you don't see them, they kind of fall at the waistline. And I just don't feel like Bayley needed another title opportunity. You could have given it to really anybody. I would like to see more of I forgot her name, Elektra on TV.
Yes.
I would like to see more of B-Fab on TV. Like, there is other women that I would like to see.
I think that's fair.
I mean, this goes back to the whole Chelsea. These are women that could rightfully be facing Chelsea for the title. And I do feel like if they decide to push Michin to the main event portion of the women's division, then this would be the opportunity for her to have a feud with Chelsea and with Tiffany, seeing as how they already kind of teased something with them before. You already know what's going to happen. Bayley not going to win.
Right.
It's already a given. So we really didn't need this.
To your point,
really
Megan, I didn't think of it that way because I was excited about the idea of just Bayley and Tiffany on paper. Microphone rivalry wise, I think Bayley can bring the best out of Tiffany. But I also, in my mind, did not know that statistic about the amount of title opportunities this year. That does change things. That's interesting to me. Now, I will say, if you look at like Bianca or some of the other bigger names that we named, I don't know about them taking a loss in Tiffany's first defense, and I don't think it's time to take the title off Tiffany. So I do think it's weird. Somehow Bayley does seem like a logical person that can take a loss, and it's a legit challenger to Tiffy. But other than that, it is hard to argue that there's not other deserving women like you mentioned. And that's something I didn't consider as much, I think, coming into the day. No, right?
More women that needs to be pulled off from Raw and put on SmackDown as well.
I do think for Tiffany's first title defense, putting a veteran opposite her, whether it had been a Naomi or, I mean, quite a few of the names you mentioned, right? Like, for example, I love B-Fab. She's awesome. But just to elevate her to the title picture, I think is a big ask, especially since Tiffany's essentially almost a rookie you think about it
Right.
too, right? Like, she had her time in NXT and then now is on the main roster very quickly, right? Having somebody that has a ton of ring experience, I think, is logical. But I agree
Right.
with you. We need to build the other end of the division as well, because there's a lot of talent there. And
Yeah.
even like we mentioned earlier, there's NXT talent that is on the way.
Absolutely. Now, I will agree. There might be only 3 horsewomen in WWE right now. And Tiffany faced Becky. She has faced Bayley.
Yep.
Again. But then she has what I would consider the final boss, which
Charlotte.
is the one and only one. And I guess that if this match ultimately builds her to that, then I'm for it. For it. But I would love to see her and Becky run it back.
Oh, I would be all over that.
I would love to see her and Bianca run it up. They kind of like tease that as well, but
Well, her and Bianca with the athleticism, you think about Bianca's track background and the gymnastics background from Tiffy, that can be a pretty impressive match. But I will say we are slightly up against the clock. So David, I got to give you your shot when it comes to this one. We've got Bayley first for Tiffany Stratton. And what are your thoughts on kind of what we discussed so far with the SmackDown women's division and the amount of challengers, as well as the Charlotte Flair factor? Sorry, that was a tongue twister for me there. The Charlotte Flair factor as far as Tiffany Stratton's reign is concerned.
So I will sort of, I understand where you're coming from, Megan. I do disagree in the sense that I do think Bayley is the right choice, and I'll defend it in the sense of I agree there are a lot of women who should be, elevated. I don't think this particular field is the time to elevate people, because Tiffany's just won the title, so the first defense she's not going to lose. So you're looking at the roster and you're thinking, right, okay, Bianca and Tiffany should be built up more than this. So I don't want that match yet. Bianca is best women's wrestler in North America. Don't, let her have that match. Most of the other women, I think, Nia would be boring. Candice doesn't feel big enough. There are a lot. Candice would have been all right, but there's a lot of people who I feel like you put them against Tiffany and it immediately establishes Tiffany's feud currently her position as mid card. You put Tiffany against B-Fab, it feels mid-card. You put Tiffany against Elektra, it feels mid-card. That's not a knock on those women, because they're very talented, but they've not been built correctly. So looking at the current position, I think Bayley is a veteran who can get that match out. Again, we've seen her face Nia 100 times. I agree with you on that. We've also seen, if we include dark matches, we've seen about 20 Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens matches as well this year. And I don't feel like anyone's particularly bored of seeing that at the Rumble. So I understand Bayley has had a lot of title defenses, but I think, this is a relatively fresh match. Not entirely. We had it a Backlash, but in the 3-way was Tiffany, Naomi, and Bayley.
That is correct.
Yes. So we have seen it. The dynamic has worked in the past. So as a filler throwaway defense to build to something else, which I do think is Charlotte, then I'm all for that. My only concern is Tiffany, I'm worried, is going back to a heel again, and if you're bringing back Charlotte Flair and it's going to be Charlotte versus Tiffany, that won't work, brother, because people will choose Tiffany over Charlotte. They will boo Charlotte and they will cheer
Tiffany needs to wrestle from underneath, as they say, against Charlotte Flair. I would agree with that. The crowd.
I'm up for the match, but if Charlotte is the face and Tiffany is the heel, I think the alignment is wrong.
That's one of those where if they book it the other way, you get a WrestleMania 18 scenario where the crowd's on the other side. You almost have to call an audible mid-match, and that's a big ask. Anyway, Megan, I'm sorry. Continue. I didn't mean to.
No. Just briefly, I was just going to say. I mean, we don't really follow up behind the websites and stuff, but as it's already kind of been lingering around that, Charlotte is not coming back as a face. Yeah. Charlotte is coming back as a heel. So, I mean, right now, that is what Tiffany is. Tiffany is a face. So I think it will fit cohesively. But I do understand that there has to be a buildup. She just can't come and do that. But ultimately, I'll watch the match.
I'm excited.
Be excited about it, but I'll watch it.
Oh, that's fair.
If we get to Battle of the Moonsaults, that is kind of exciting. I'm kidding. No, but
Yeah.
I mean, they both have great moonsaults. That's all I'm saying. Either way, though,
Daniels.
that does us. Yes, exactly. Fallen angel. Anyway, that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you, everybody that tuned in. We really appreciate it. If you haven't liked and subscribed, please do. Check us out every single day, same place, same time, noon Pacific, 3 in the East, 8 o'clock in the UK. That's, of course, 9 a.m. in Hawaii. And then, of course, tomorrow morning, if you want to argue with me, do it. Download the Itsy app. Check it out. Join the stream. We'll let you in. You'll probably get about 2 minutes, and then we'll send you on your merry way. It'll be a good time. We'll love it. But either way, on behalf of me, Clark, Megan, David, everybody at WR, have an excellent Saturday. Enjoy your weekend. We will talk to y'all soon.